Comparing proposals from different AV providers can be really confusing. There has to be a better way, right? Well, let's get into it.
Welcome to the Event Pro Show, your ultimate guide to the world of corporate events. Whether you're a corporate event planner, experiential marketing pro, producer, technician, or anyone involved in creating exceptional events, this podcast is your go-to resource for valuable insights, expert tips, and inspiring stories from the industry's leading professionals.
Well, thank you for joining us on the Event Pro Show. I am your host, Seth Macchi, CEO of LEMG. We're an event production company based in Charlotte, North Carolina, and we travel all over the country with meeting planners, primarily producing corporate events. And welcome to part 2 of a series I'm doing called the AV Playbook for Corporate Event Planners. And today we're going to talk about AV RFPs. And the reason why is, just our company alone, just LEMG alone, we produce over 200 projects a year. And that means we get to look at a lot of RFPs and write a lot of proposals. And so there's a lot of experience there kind of getting to observe how different meeting planners write their RFPs. And, there's a constant that we talk about a lot. The constant is that being a meeting planner is a very difficult job. First of all, you don't have a lot of time. And there's another constant out there is that the AV portion of your entire event budget, as a lot of you know, is a top 5 expense, if not a top 3 expense on your line item expenses, with things like venue costs and food and beverage and those types of things. And so I thought it would be worth taking a little bit of time on a topic that I, from time to time, do talk about. It's writing AV RFPs. And I think one of the challenges that I'd like to talk about trying to solve for meeting planners on this episode is that proposals can be really varied from vendor to vendor and challenging to compare, kind of an apples to apples comparison. And so that is a challenge in and of itself. So you've got all these proposals laid out on a table in front of you. How do you know that vendor A, vendor B, vendor C, first of all, understood the mission, understood your scope? And how do you know if they all are providing a very similar solution? Or are the solutions themselves just completely different? So that makes it really challenging to compare, like what's the right decision here? And so it really comes back to reverse engineering that process. It comes back to how you're writing your RFP, your request for proposal. And as we all know, the request for proposal document is supposed to communicate everything about what you need, what you expect, and what you want to see back, when you want to see it back. So let's talk through that. If you could write a better AV RFP, what if that could save you tons of time on the back end, and it would really narrow down exactly what you get back from potential AV providers. And really, by extension, other services that you need for your event. You could do the same thing. A lot of these items that I'm going to talk about, you could roll into other RFPs that you're writing as well. But building proposals, I want to take you behind the scenes of what's going on with an AV company before I talk about how to write a great RFP. Building proposals, it requires a bit of customization. And there are companies that kind of do, this is a solution in a box and it's one price and it is what it is. But we find that that's kind of an ineffective way of doing it for our client type, which tends to be corporate clients or educational clients, nonprofit clients, these type of clients. And so that, because our proposals require a bit of customization, like the solutions are not always the same, it leaves room for errors like over and underestimating, scheduling misunderstandings, that's a big one, unclear expectations. And what I mean by that is in my head, when you say this one phrase, it means something totally different than what you're intending with that phrase. So there's unclear expectations, which makes it very difficult to write a proposal if we're not on the same page. And so I wanted to give some actionable tips of how to write a clear RFP so that you can receive proposals that are very easy to compare. You can put them all out together and just kind of line by line. You can compare, make a decision that's best for you, and move on. That saves so much time. So let's start with the basics. Please make sure that your contact info, including who needs to be included in the RFP response, go ahead and make sure that's there. It's very helpful to have the end client in mind. So, we need to know that who's going to be paying the bill, like who's reaching out to us. It's probably ABC Planning Company, but the end client is Acme Incorporated. And then be sure to include the event name. So Acme Incorporated Annual Sales Event 2029. Make sure that's there, and in the way that you want it written out, so that all the documentation, the show name is correct. Please be sure to include the venue and room information. So it's going to be at Smallsville Convention Center, and we're going to be in ballroom 1 and 2, and breakout rooms 232, 233, 234. Make sure that there's room specific information. If you don't know that yet, that's fine. But just say that. We're not clear, but they will be a large ballroom, enough for 450 people. And our breakout, we're going to have 5 breakout sessions with 80 people in each one or something like that. That's fine too. Dates and schedule. Let's talk about this for a minute. It's wonderful to know the actual run of show, like the day 1 of show, day 2 of show, day 3 of show. But once we know the scope, how many people are there, what you're trying to accomplish, we then start to understand how long load in needs to be. And so some shows are quite complex. They need 3 days of load in, 4 days of load in. Some shows don't need that at all. They just need a 1 day of load in, or some are smaller and they could load in the whole day, and then the opening session is actually a dinner. So everything can happen on day 1. We need to know that. And so I'll give you an example of why that's important. I talk a lot about this. Rehearsals are very important. If you have amateurs on stage, which most business executives are amateurs as far as being on stage. They're not like professional entertainers. So having a rehearsal for what they're going to do is very important. And so, you it might be a 1 day load in and then show, but you might need to back up an extra day, load in on day 1, rehearse all of day 2, and then show kicks off on day 3. Make sure you're thinking that through, and then understand that schedule. Make sure that you have access to the building. So there's a realisticness to your schedule, that, there's a physical limitation of how much equipment you can push into a loading dock, get set up in a certain amount of time. So that needs to be fairly realistic. Again, with any of these questions, if you have any questions, reach out to one of your vendor partners. Even if they haven't won the project, they'd be glad to answer these questions for you. Be sure to write a general overview of the event. What are you trying to accomplish? Is this a external sales event? Is this an internal training meeting? Is this an all hands meeting? Just something, and maybe about the vision of the show. If there's a theme, go ahead and include the theme. Occasionally, we even have brand guidelines for the event itself. That's helpful. That really helps in the proposal process. As you're laying out your spaces, say what your AV needs are by space. So in that example I gave before, in the general session, this is what I would like to see. These are, we'd like at least 2 cameras. We'd like IMAG. We'd also need recording on that. We're going to be streaming that. We have a lot of smaller things on our screen. It's an accounting conference, so there's going to be spreadsheets. Make sure that the screens or video surfaces are large enough to manage that. You can go on anything that you feel is relevant. We're going to have a panel, moderated panel. The most people on stage during that panel will be 8. And so, okay, cool. That speaks to audio needs, those types of things. In the breakouts, we're not going to be streaming except in the 4th breakout, and we'll need a camera and the ability to stream in there. It's going to be 2-way. One of the instructors is going to be remote from Europe, so we're going to need 2-way conversation in that room. But the other 3 breakout rooms are just basic breakout setup. Doesn't need that. Go ahead and give as much detail as you can. Budget range and guidance. If you listen to the Event Pro show at all, you know that this is a favorite of mine. It's not something, if you don't know, that's okay. But usually you're going into an event with some kind of idea of the budget guidance, at least, that you need to stay within. And that's so important for your vendor partners to know what the sandbox is to play with, because we could produce the largest event in the world if you wanted us to, but we can also produce an amazing event within your budget parameters, as long as it's within reason. And if it's not, we can come back and say, okay, your minimum requirements are this, and this is what it would cost to do your minimum requirements. So maybe you could take that back to your team and talk about it, those types of things. It's very helpful. It's very helpful to have a decision process and timeline. And what I mean by that is just a general, once we receive, we take this back to a board who then approves it. They'll be approving it next month on the 5th. After that, we will set up presentations with the 3 potential vendors that were approved by our board, and then we'll make a final decision by the 18th, something like that. And who are the specific people in that process, as much as you think are relevant. Those are some basic things that you should put in your RFP for AV services. I would also say supporting material is always appreciated. So photos of previous events, diagrams of spaces, short video clips of past events, anything like that is super helpful to set expectations beyond you writing a synopsis of the event. Those are very helpful, and we reference a lot when we're building proposals that we feel like it helps us really dial in. Even if it's a brand new event for you, but you have ideas, go ahead and you can create a folder and share, all the photos or vision board or, whatever you think is relevant for what you're trying to accomplish. That's very, very helpful. Every time that we have clients that go ahead and submit those type of items, it helps us really dial in and create a really competitive proposal. I have one last bonus tip. We had a client that did not choose us for a project, and that's okay. That happens. We bid on projects, and some we win, some we lose. That's part of the game. But what they did do that was unique is in their response of we've made the decision to go with another provider, and this is what we really liked about your proposal. And here are things that gave us pause, that these are things that we needed maybe some more detail on, or this is the reason why we went the other direction. Super helpful. That is something that definitely you're not going to hurt anybody's feelings. In fact, as our sales team, we were able to take that and learn from it. So if you wanted to just take an extra 5 minutes and let your vendors know why you didn't choose them, that's also super valuable. So that's a little pro tip there that I know that, in this process, you get to tell people that they won, but you also get to tell people that, hey, that it's not going to work out this time. Super helpful if you tell people why. I hope this part 2 of our series was helpful to you. And if it is, please continue to listen. Our goal here is to help meeting planners produce better events and work with their AV partners as efficiently as possible so you can produce great events. That's what we all want to be a part of. And if you're planning a corporate meeting or conference and want a production partner that simplifies the AV process, visit lemg.live to learn more. Either way, thank you for spending time with us, and we will see you on the next one. The Event Pro Show is a production of LEMG, video by Nick Barrett, audio and post-production by Prince Thompson. You can learn more about us at lemg.live.